My sister stranded me in a French town, penniless, phoneless, a cruel prank. I'm Nora, betrayed by Amara's calculated laughter. Worse awaited at home. Could you forgive family for this? Where are you listening from? What would you do? Share below. And name's Nora Bennett, youngest of 3. The one who never raised her voice, the one who always said it's fine, even when it wasn't. That's how it's always been. At birthdays, graduations, even funerals, they called it grace. I used to call it survival. This trip to France was supposed to be different. A fresh start, a chance to reconnect, Amara had said, texting me a photo of the Provence lavender fields with a heart emoji. She and her friends were already booked and insisted I tag along. Just us girls, like old times. It sounded good on paper, but paper burns easy. From the first day in Paris, I felt it, that pinch, like I'd wandered into a party I wasn't actually invited to. They made inside jokes I wasn't part of, shared glances I didn't understand. I chalked it up to jet lag. Or maybe I was too quiet. That's what Amara always said. You shrink yourself, Nora. No one knows what to do with silence. The last night we had dinner on a rooftop overlooking the Seine River. It was stunning. Fairy lights strung like stars, the Eiffel Tower glowing in the distance. The waiter poured rose while the group laughed loud enough for strangers to look over. Amara sat at the center of the table, flawless in her linen dress, telling a story about her recent charity gala. I had the mayor's wife crying by dessert, she beamed. People kept asking if I was on the city council. When I tried to comment on a street artist I'd seen that morning, someone cut me off. You actually went out that early? Another chimed in, must be nice not to have real deadlines. I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because it was safer. I didn't want to ruin the night. I never did, so instead I quietly handed the waiters some euros for the tip. Amara always made a fuss about who paid what. I thought if I just eased things, maybe the tension would pass. But tension doesn't pass. It builds. It was past 11 p.m. when one of Amara's friends, I think her name was Leela, squinted at me and slurred, "So, like, you still work at that nonprofit thing helping homeless dogs or whatever?" I corrected her gently. It's actually a legal aid clinic for domestic abuse survivors. Lila blinked. Wow, that's cute. Laughter rippled around the table. I felt my stomach twist. You know, I said, placing my fork down, I don't expect applause, but maybe don't reduce it to something cute? Amara rolled her eyes. There it is. There what? This, she said loud enough to quiet the group. You ruin every trip with your feelings. God, Nora, grow up. Even the waiter paused. My chair scraped back before I even realized I was standing. I didn't say a word. I just left. The air outside was cooler than I expected. Or maybe it was the heat in my cheeks. I walked aimlessly for a while, letting the buzz of bicycles and laughter blur into a distant hum. Around midnight, I texted Amara, I'll meet you at the hotel in 30 minutes. Then I ducked into a late-night cafe for a bottle of water. I needed time, distance, a sliver of grace. By the time I reached the hotel, the lobby lights felt too bright. I smiled politely at the front desk clerk. Room 312. He looked up, then hesitated. I believe your party checked out about 45 minutes ago. I froze. Sorry, what? They left bags at the front for a van pickup. I blinked. My name's not on the room, but I'm with... I was just out for a walk. He shrugged, apologetic. They left together. No note. I raced upstairs anyway. The door wouldn't open. My key card didn't work. My bag, my passport, my phone charger, all in the group luggage. Amara had insisted she'd keep it safe, like always. My throat tightened. I ran back down, out the doors, onto the street. Tried Amara's number, straight to voicemail. Tried Bila. Nothing. Opened the rental app. The van location had already shifted far south, headed out of Paris. That's when it hit me. This wasn't an accident. This was a plan. I opened the last group photo from dinner, everyone smiling, glasses raised. But there, in the far right, was Amara, eyes locked on the camera, lips curved in a tight smirk, and in her left hand, tucked behind her back, was my passport. She'd been holding it the entire time, standing in the middle of a place alone. I whispered what I never dared say aloud. You don't get to erase me this time, Amara. I said it under my breath. as if the stones beneath my feet might carry it for me. But Paris didn't respond. The place was empty except for a few trash bins and pigeons pecking at crumbs from someone else's joy. I sat on the cold bench with my arms wrapped around my knees, still in last night's clothes, still hoping someone, anyone, would call to see it was a mistake. It wasn't. The sun crept up with no kindness. I hadn't slept. Not really. Just drifted in and out, neck sore from the bench, the kind tourists whispering around me as if I were a statue. Something to observe, not touch. I checked my phone, 6% battery, no bars. I thought maybe Amara had messaged after all, but nothing. I stood slowly, the kind of slow that came from disbelief, not fatigue, and had in my jacket for my wallet. It wasn't there. My heart skipped. I checked the small backpack I had grabbed in the rush out of the restaurant the night before. It wasn't mine, not the soft leather one Amara always called embarrassingly practical. This one was glittery blue, cheap inside. A folded note stared back at me like a smirk. Try not to cry. It's embarrassing. I held it in my hands like it was on fire. I wandered toward the tourist information center near the Notre Dame, trying to piece together what the hell I was going to do. A woman behind the counter gave me a polite but confused look as I tried to explain my situation. No ID, no wallet, no friends. I showed her the fake backpack and pointed at my phone, mouthing, "She hit me," one with a sympathetic glance. "Wait here," she said, disappearing into a back room. I sat near a dusty rack of brochures, plugging my phone in beside a plastic chair with one leg shorter than the others. I didn't care. I just wanted one message, one lifeline. 15 minutes passed, then 25. New texts, no missed calls. I opened WhatsApp. The group chat with Amara and the girls, Provence pals, was gone. Not silent, gone. I stared at my screen. They'd kicked me out of the group. I swallowed hard and switched to Instagram, logging in through the spotty Wi-Fi. Amara had just posted a photo of her and Lila in matching hats at a train platform, smiling, happy. The caption, "When dead weight disappears on its own, good vibes only," and just beneath it a heart emoji from our mother. I felt like I'd been slapped. I clicked through. My sister had blocked me on everything. Her stories, even our old shared photos gone, like I never existed. And Mom had liked the post. No text from her. No, "Are you okay?" Not even a question mark. Odd and I sat there, thumb hovering over the screen, but there was no one left to call. I wasn't surprised. Not really, just confirmed. It reminded me of last spring, when Amara asked the family for help launching her boutique perfume line. I offered to co-sign the loan quietly. Even though she hadn't asked, she laughed in my face. "I'd rather tank my credit than tie it to you. You bring nothing but drama." I'd forgotten that for a while. Let the idea of sisterhood fool me. Thought maybe this trip was her way of making amends. It wasn't. I left the tourist center with the charger still in my hand and no direction in my mind. I wandered toward a row of olive trees by the bus stop and sat in their shade, thinking, trying not to spiral. But the thought kept looping. They planned this. This wasn't a mistake. This was entertainment to them. I kept imagining them in the van, laughing, playing a guessing game of how long it would take me to realize I'd been ditched. I could hear Amara's voice in my head, clear as crystal. "She's always so serious. Maybe now she'll lighten up." There are moments in life when your options split in two so cleanly it feels like a movie script. Sitting under those trees with borrowed Wi-Fi and a broken heart, I saw them. Option 1, call the embassy. Wait 8 hours, get processed, pitied, maybe get home in 4 days. Option 2, find a way to Nice today, catch them before their flight. No yelling, no begging, just show up. It would take more than anger. It would take resolve and something I hadn't leaned on in years. The belief that I mattered enough to confront someone. I closed my eyes. "If I let this slide," I whispered, "I will never stop." And with 1 borrowed charger and 25 borrowed euros, I began walking toward the train station. The walk to the train station wasn't long, but it felt like miles. The charger dangled from my wrist like a lifeline, and the 25 euros I'd been handed burned in my pocket. Not because of the money, but because someone believed I might still find a way forward. At the station, I stood in line behind a family with noisy toddlers and a honeymoon couple arguing over seats. My mind drifted to Amara. Was she already checking into a new hotel in Nice? Laughing about how the dead weight took the hint? A middle-aged man with kind eyes and a thick accent helped me buy the cheapest ticket to Nice, second class, no reserve seat. I thanked him in broken French and boarded with a breath so shaky I had to sit down immediately. The train rocked gently, winding its way through the countryside. A young waitress sitting across the aisle noticed my tear-streaked face and passed me a napkin without a word. I looked at her, really looked, and saw something familiar in her eyes. "Bad day?" she asked in soft English. I nodded. "Family?" she guessed. I laughed bitterly. Yeah, she told me about her brother, who hadn't spoken to her since she left the family restaurant to become a flight attendant. How her mom called her selfish. How her sister said, "You think you're better than us." She wiped her hands on her apron and said, "Sometimes the people who raise you are the ones who resent you the most." Her words landed like stone in my stomach. It was strange how hearing someone else's pain made my own feel less lonely. When the train pulled into the Nice station, the platform was buzzing. I thanked her for the napkin and the kindness, and she smiled, motioning toward the front of the train. "I work part-time at a hotel near here. You going anywhere special?" I swallowed. "Just trying to find my family." She hesitated for a beat, then nodded slowly. "If you need anything, come to the Côte d'Azur Hotel. I'll be there for the next shift." It gnawed like sea salt and old coins. The city was alive. Golden light casting long shadows through narrow streets. I walked with purpose. The hotel wasn't far, a sleek glass and marble building that looked like it belonged to a different world. I stepped inside. The front desk staff, a young man with perfect posture, looked at me with polite suspicion. "No, but my sister Amara Bennett, she's staying here with a group." He clicked a few keys on his keyboard. "I'm sorry, we don't have anyone under that name." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "Please. I don't need a room. I just need to talk to her. Could you call the room? Maybe Lila Hayes or Rhea Maxwell?" He blinked, clearly recognizing one of the names, then shook his head. "They're not accepting calls. Do you want to leave a message?" "No, I want to speak to them." "I'm sorry, miss." I took a step back, chest tight. I was about to turn away when I spotted her, the waitress from the train, now in a dark blazer and name tag. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Wait," she whispered, walking over quickly. "You're her sister?" I froze. "Yes." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a room key card. "She dropped this in the elevator last night. I was going to give it to the front desk, but I figured maybe you needed it more." My fingers trembled as I took the card. "Thank you." She nodded once, quietly stepping away. I walked down the hallway slowly, heart pounding. The card slipped easily into the door's lock. Click. Voices spilled into the corridor before I even pushed the door open. "I swear, it's like a weight has been lifted," Lila said. "Oh, please," Amara laughed. "She acts like a martyr, but all she does is drag everything down. Wasn't there that whole emergency money thing?" Rhea chimed in. "Didn't your parents give her like 15 grand because she couldn't keep a job?" Amara snorted. "Only because they felt guilty. I told them not to. She didn't earn it. She doesn't do anything." The laughter was sharp, cruel, familiar. I stood there, frozen, not inside the room, just at the threshold. My throat went dry. I'd heard whispers about it from Dad once, but when I asked, he said I was making drama out of nothing. I thought I'd misunderstood, but no. Amara had spun a story. My parents had let it grow, and now these women toasted to their freedom from my guilt trips. It wasn't just that they left me. They rewrote me. I stepped back, gently closed the door. At the end of the hallway, I dropped the keycard on the floor, right where someone would find it and wonder how it got there. I didn't need it anymore. Outside, the nice air had turned crisp. The sun was dipping below the skyline, casting the buildings in amber and blue. I didn't cry. I just walked, one foot after the other, past fountains and laughing tourists, past alley cats and restaurants with tables spilling into the street. "They wanted me erased," I whispered. "I'm about to become unforgettable." The moment Elliot said my name, something inside me paused, like an old wound catching air. The cobblestone beneath my feet felt steadier than my heartbeat. He looked older, of course, softer around the eyes with a beard he didn't have when we were teenagers, but the way he smiled, that hadn't changed. "Nora," he said again. "What are you doing here?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. What was I supposed to say? Oh, just got dumped in a foreign city by my sister and left with someone else's backpack. Instead, I offered the only truth that felt manageable. Just needed some air. He chuckled softly, as if that made perfect sense. "Well, I'll take it as a sign. Let me buy you a coffee. There's a place around the corner. It's quiet." I should have said no, but something about Elliot, the steadiness in his voice, the familiarity of someone who once knew me before I became invisible in my own family, made it hard to walk away. We crossed the street, the French sky darkening above us, and sat outside a tiny cafe tucked between ivy-covered buildings. "So," he said gently, "how have you been?" I let the silence sit for a beat. Trying to remember who I was, he studied me for a moment. "You always stood up for the underdog, even when it meant you were the one getting hit. That's how I remember you." I looked down at the chipped edge of my espresso cup. My throat burned. He went on, "I remember in 7th grade when that group of boys stole my sketchbook. You followed them after school and got it back. You didn't even tell anyone, it just showed up in my locker the next day." I remembered that. I also remembered how Mom had scolded me for coming home late that day, accusing me of chasing chaos for attention. "You were the brave one," Elliot said. "Even back then." I gave a tight smile. "Not everyone saw it that way." "Your mom didn't," he said bluntly. "She scared me, honestly. Always looked like she was calculating who didn't belong." That made me laugh, but the sound was hollow. "She calculated me out a long time ago." He leaned forward. "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that." We sat in silence for a few moments, letting the weight of it settle. Then Elliot said something that snapped the air clean. "I still remember your graduation, senior year." I looked up, startled. "You do?" He nodded. "You gave that speech, the honors one. I remember how loud the applause was, except your mom didn't even clap, just sat there, stone-faced, arms crossed." My heart dropped. That moment had haunted me for years, but I thought maybe I'd imagined it, that maybe the memory had warped with time. But Elliot had seen it too, from the outside. He continued, "Later that night, I saw her hugging your sister in the parking lot. Something about her getting into technical college. She skipped my honors dinner," I whispered. "Said she was tired, but she had energy for the party at my sister's friend's house." And just like that, I was 18 again, sitting alone in my room, heels kicked off, dress still zipped, waiting for a mother who never came. "She always made me feel like I was too much," I said slowly. "Too emotional, too difficult, like I had to apologize just for breathing." Elliot's expression didn't change. He just nodded, steady as ever. "I didn't know how to say it, but I knew you deserved better. You always did." Something broke loose inside me then, not out of weakness, but release. I let the tears fall, unbothered by the couple at the next table or the waiter glancing over. Elliot didn't rush me. He just sat there, like someone who'd been waiting years to bear witness. "Thank you," I said finally, wiping my face. "For remembering, for seeing me." He reached into his pocket and handed me a card. "I work for a travel documentary channel now. We're hiring writers. It's remote, flexible. If you ever want to tell stories that matter, I think you've got a few." I stared at the card, heart hammering. "I think I needed to run into you," I said slowly. "You reminded me who I was before they started rewriting me." We stood, hugged briefly, and I slipped the card into my bag like it was something sacred. That night, as I walked back toward my hostel, I didn't feel defeated. I felt awake. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't going to go home. Not yet. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing against the nightstand glass. The screen glowed with 15 missed calls, 12 from my mother, 3 from my cousin Tara, and a flood of texts I wasn't ready for. I sat up slowly, back aching from a night of restless turning. My mind was still replaying fragments of last night's conversation with Elliot, his voice still echoed in my ears. You reminded me of someone who never stopped fighting, even when no one clapped. But that sense of calm didn't last long. A Facebook notification cut through the fog. I tapped it. A new post from Amara, a sunny photo of her, Mom, and Tara at a restaurant patio, clinking mimosa glasses. The caption, "Best trip ever with real family." I stared at the screen. There I was in the corner of the original photo, eyes closed, barely visible. But in the repost versions, I was gone, cropped out like I'd never been there. I opened the comment section, heart thudding. I should have stopped myself, but curiosity is a wound that picks its own scab. "Did the moody one finally go home?" someone wrote. "Girl had no vibe, just tension," another said. Then I saw it. My own mother had replied, "Sometimes it's better when one person takes space." My hand dropped to my lap. The phone slipped from my fingers, landing screen down on the sheet. I didn't move. For a long while, I didn't think, just stared at the cracked ceiling of the hotel room I'd booked the night before. I kept hoping this was some deranged test I hadn't studied for, that maybe they were trying to teach me something about strength. But it wasn't that. They weren't testing me. They were erasing me. A new message popped up from Selena, my old college roommate back in Washington. She was one of the few who never unfollowed me when I left town quietly years ago. "You okay? You need to see this," she wrote. Then a screenshot came through, a group chat. My name was the thread title. Nora drama. It was my sister's messages. Amara had written, "She always ruins everything. This trip was for us, not for her baggage." Tara chimed in. "Can't believe she still thinks she's family." That's the saddest part. Even someone I didn't know had replied, "She plays the victim so well. Too bad it doesn't come with a return ticket." I could feel my chest constrict, not like heartbreak, but like being dragged underwater with no air. I opened my voicemail, already knowing I'd regret it. My mother's voice, calm and low, filled the silence. "Nora, I hope you're not making this bigger than it is. You're making things difficult again. Please don't cause a scene. Just come home when you're ready to act like family." The word family scraped like gravel in my throat. She always said things like that. Act like family. It was code for don't embarrass us. Code for stay quiet, swallow it, and don't make waves. But I wasn't a child anymore. I wasn't the girl who cried silently in her room while the family opened gifts downstairs. I wasn't the one who skipped prom because Amara said, "You just make it weird." I picked my phone back up, hands shaking, not from fear, but clarity. I canceled my return flight. Then I opened my laptop. The words didn't take long to find me. They were already inside me, simmering for years. I wrote, "Family doesn't abandon you in a foreign country. They don't crop you out of memories, then toast to your absence. They don't call you dramatic while they stage their betrayal." I paused. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. "They say I'm a burden, but I carried more than they'll ever know." I hit save, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel invisible. My finger hovered over the button for half a second longer than I meant. Then I pressed it. Post. I stared at the screen, not even breathing, half expecting the world to ignore it the way my family had ignored me for years. But within minutes, it was already gaining traction. 4 hours later, the post had over 3,000 likes. By hour 5, there were comments pouring in from people across the country. "This happened to me. Your sister sounds exactly like mine. My mother did the same. You're not alone." Someone even shared, "I know that brunch spot in Nice. They look so fake smiling without you." I refreshed the page and watched the numbers rise. It wasn't about going viral. It was about being heard, just once. Then came the backlash. Amara's name popped into my inbox. Subject, "Take that down." "Nora, what the hell is wrong with you? That post is a disgusting exaggeration. You're making us look awful to strangers. Take it down or you'll regret it." An hour later, my phone vibrated with a voicemail. "Mom, you always find a way to play victim, don't you? We took you on this trip to reconnect, and this is how you thank us? You're hurting our family name." I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, staring at my reflection in the black TV screen. She still called it a family, as if I was ever treated like part of it. I reopened the post, typed one more line underneath. If they didn't want the world to know, they shouldn't have done it. I walked to the tiny kitchenette in the corner of the room, poured myself lukewarm tap water, and tried to steady my breathing. The door was locked, the curtains drawn, but I still didn't feel safe. By late afternoon, the fallout deepened. My work phone rang, a Washington number I recognized. HR. "Nor, hi," came the voice of Miriam from People Ops. "Listen, we received an anonymous email this morning with links to your recent social media posts. There's some concern about emotional instability while abroad." My stomach flipped. "Excuse me? We're just putting your access on temporary hold while we sort it out. Standard. Standard, right?" Someone had reported me, and I knew exactly who. It was either Amara, bitter and calculated, or Mom, who was always 2 steps ahead when protecting the family's reputation. I didn't cry. Not this time. I wanted to. God knows I wanted to scream, to fly home, to walk into that office and demand fairness. But instead, I opened my email, attached a PDF of my therapist's recommendation letter from last winter during my sabbatical, and added a screenshot of the leaked messages Amara and Tara had sent about me. For context, I wrote, "This is what triggered my response." I didn't hit send right away. First, I read an old voicemail again, one from my father. He'd left it a few years before he passed, when I was between jobs, living in my car for a stretch, too ashamed to call home. His voice cracked as he said, "I know they make you feel like you don't belong, but you're my favorite kind of storm. Quiet, but unstoppable." My throat tightened. The grief was still there, so was the pride. Elliot's texted in, "Don't come home for them. Stay for you." I opened a new document on my laptop. At the top, I typed, "Things I was never allowed to say." Then I went to LinkedIn. I copied the post, pasted it clean, professional, added one final sentence. "Character isn't built in a quiet family. It's revealed when you survive a loud one." I hit post. This time, the silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the breath you take before a storm hits back. I hadn't even brushed my teeth when the first message came in. No greeting, no small talk, just a direct, chilling line. "I think you just exposed my cousin's exact story. Your sister is toxic. Want proof?" At first I stared at it, blinking against the brightness of my phone screen. My heart sped up. I tapped into the sender's profile. Her name was Elena Moreau, and her bio mentioned she was a UX designer in Paris. Mutuals. 3. One of them was Amara, I replied cautiously. "Proof of what?" She didn't hesitate. Less than a minute later, my inbox pinged again with a screenshot. It was an old group chat I recognized, the one Amara had used to coordinate family holidays, birthdays, and, apparently, smear campaigns. The image showed a message thread from nearly 4 years ago. Amara had written, "She acts like we owe her love just because she exists. Watch her beg for approval like a stray outside the door." I swallowed hard. I remembered that exact month. I'd flown home to attend Dad's minor procedure. I'd brought soup, checked his meds, even booked his follow-ups. And while I was folding laundry in their basement, my sister was laughing about me online. Alina followed up with a longer message. I distanced myself from Amara after that trip. I couldn't stomach how she treated people. You weren't the only one she tried to erase. Want to meet? An hour later, I sat across from her in a corner cafe near Cannes. The late morning sun casting long shadows through dusty windows. Alina looked nothing like I remembered, her hair now cut short, her voice steadier. But there was a strange comfort in how little she tiptoed around the truth. "She uses people," Elena said plainly, stirring her espresso. "I think deep down she envies anyone who can live without the need for applause." I didn't respond. I couldn't yet. Then she reached into her purse and slid over a small USB drive. "These are the photos Amara deleted from our shared drive. I saved them before she locked. Thought you'd want them back." I opened the files later on my laptop. Shots from a beach day I'd barely remembered. In each photo, I was either cropped, blurred, or conveniently blocked by something, a towel, a hand, a laugh some away. It was like watching someone methodically erase my existence from memory. But one photo stood out. It was of me and Amara as kids, sitting in front of Mom's art gallery. I had a melted popsicle in one hand, a mismatched socks on. Amara had her hair braided and crossed arms. Mom stood behind us, smiling, but only at Amara. I posted it. No caption, just 3 words. The girl removed. It took 45 seconds to go live. The comments began in minutes. I remember this store. They did this to my sister too, so this is how families protect their image. Then, a tag. My cousin Leela in Seattle. Oh my God, they did this to me too. The family group chat spiraled from there. I was removed, then re-added by Uncle Theo. Then a message from my mother appeared, as polished and cold as her Sunday brunch smile. What are you trying to do to this family? I took a long breath before replying. My fingers didn't shake this time. What I should have done 12 years ago. Tell the truth. Her typing bubble blinked for a full minute, then disappeared. Back at the hotel, I handed my key to the front desk for a towel swap when the receptionist tilted his head toward the lobby. There's someone here to see you. She says she's your sister. My spine straightened before I turned. My palms stayed at my sides. I didn't ask which one. I already knew. Amara was standing near the marble planter, hands folded, lips pressed into that practiced neutral expression she wore at funerals and family court. She hadn't come to apologize. I could see it in the set of her jaw, the way her eyes scanned the room first, like she was making sure no one was recording. She didn't want reconciliation. She wanted control. And for the first time, I wasn't going to hand it to her. She didn't sit. Amara stood across from me in the lobby like she was waiting for her assistant to show up with coffee. Sunglasses still on inside, lips pressed into a tight, unmoved line. You went too far, she said, voice level but sharp. No greeting, no sign of remorse. Just the edge of control slipping beneath her words. I stayed seated, elbows on my knees, my hands clasped to stop them from shaking. Not from fear, but restraint. Too far? I echoed, raising an eyebrow. You stranded me in a foreign country with no phone, no money, and no way to get back. I'd say you passed too far a few time zones ago. She rolled her eyes, like I was reciting a soap opera script. It was a misunderstanding, she shrugged. We thought you were going to meet up with your little friend from Washington. That's how she framed it, a misunderstanding. Like canceling my hotel room and leaving me off the itinerary was just a forgotten calendar invite. A few minutes later, I motioned for us to move outside. I needed fresh air and fewer witnesses. The hotel garden was quiet. Marble benches, hedges trimmed to perfection, little fountains pretending this wasn't about to turn into a war zone. Amara finally removed her sunglasses, but her eyes were no softer. Look, she began. If you take down the post, I'll fix things with Mom. Get her to stop. She'll listen to me. I laughed under my breath. You really think you're the gatekeeper to our mother? You edited me out of the family, and now you want me to believe you hold the keys back in. Amara took a step closer, voice lowering like she thought intimidation still worked. You keep playing this out publicly, I swear I'll make sure no one believes your little victim story. Not online, not at work, not anywhere. I didn't flinch. Instead, I pulled out my phone and tapped a saved number. She froze when the screen lit up. Attorney Marie Dubois, Probate and Financial Law. I hit the speaker icon. Marie, you're on, I said. Would you mind repeating what you found for me? The voice on the line was calm, professional. Yes, Nora. We traced a digital filing trail. It appears someone submitted power of attorney documents on behalf of your mother, with your name forged as witness and alternate signatory. That person, based on the IP address and login credentials, was Amara Bennett. Amira's face drained of color like I'd turned off a light switch inside her. Her jaw locked. Her hands clutched her purse strap so tightly I thought it might snap. I didn't stop. We're pursuing legal action. I'm recording this call for my records. I watched her closely. This was the first time in our lives she wasn't the one holding the cards, and she knew it. Oh, Nora, she said finally, voice trembling at the edges. You wouldn't drag this through court. I stood then, slowly, deliberately. Watch me. Her mouth parted in protest, but nothing came out. She turned, stormed off toward the back gate of the garden, heels clicking furiously, sunglasses shoved back on, head held high but shoulders slumped. She looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe it was the missing power she'd worn like perfume her whole life. Maybe it was the truth, finally, loud enough to drown out her spin. That evening, back in my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared out at the lights of nice. I should have felt exhausted, but I didn't. I felt light. Not because the storm had passed, but because I'd finally stopped trying to avoid it. My phone buzzed. "Delta, your flight to Washington is confirmed." I stared at the text, then looked at the bags I had halfway packed, but something felt different. I whispered into the quiet room. "This time, I'm not flying away. I'm flying free." I zipped the last compartment closed one last time, and then a knock at the door. I stood up slowly, heart steady. But the voice on the other side wasn't Amara. The knock wasn't frantic. It was soft, deliberate. I opened the door slowly, still clutching the strap of my carry-on. My mother stood there. She didn't look like the woman who used to turn heads at charity galas or church events. Her hair was pinned too tightly, her blouse slightly wrinkled, and the shine in her eyes wasn't pride. It was something closer to weariness. "Can I come in?" she asked. Not a demand, not a performance, just a question, carried on the voice of someone who wasn't sure they'd be welcomed. I stepped aside. She walked in without speaking further, sat on the edge of the small sofa like a guest, unsure whether they were early or terribly late. I poured water into 2 glasses. It was too early for coffee and too late for explanations, but we started anyway. We sat in silence for a while. The hum of traffic outside filled the air between us. Finally, she cleared her throat and looked at me. Not directly, but enough that I could tell she was working through something rehearsed and failing. "I knew what Amara did," she began. I didn't blink. "I didn't stop her because I asked her to look after you. I told her not to involve me in anything. I just didn't want to deal with it. That's what I'd become to her. A situation, a burden to delegate." She didn't look for my reaction. Maybe she knew better than to expect tears. "You were always the quiet one," she said. "The strong one. I thought you'd be fine." I sat still, my jaw clenched so tight I could hear my own breath against my teeth. It wasn't the words themselves. It was how easily they came out, like strength meant being discarded. "I was never fine," I said. "I just stopped showing you how much it hurt." She nodded once, slowly, like maybe, just maybe, she'd heard that before but never believed it until now. Her eyes drifted to my wrist. "The bracelet, the twisted wire one I'd bought from a street artisan in Avignon. Your father bought me one like that the first time we came to France," she murmured. "Said it looked like something strong that learned to bend." I touched it unconsciously. I used to find comfort in those echoes, shared tastes, parallel moments. But now, it didn't warm me. It just reminded me how long I'd mistaken proximity for closeness. She reached out almost reflexively, like she wanted to touch it too, but pulled her hand back before she made contact. There were no tears, no shouting, just gravity between us. History that didn't need to be retold. I stood quietly, picked up my suitcase. "I'm not going to drag you through the mud," I said. "I won't turn this into some kind of public execution." Her shoulders sagged, just slightly, but then I added, "But I'm done playing the secret. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. I won't shrink for your comfort." She finally looked up. Her voice was low. "So, this is it." I met her eyes. "No, this is me." The sun was still climbing when I stepped out of the hotel. The streets were already buzzing with the pace of a city that didn't care whether you were healed or hurting. I welcomed that indifference. The cab ride to the airport was quiet. I didn't check my phone. Whatever message came next, it could wait. At the terminal, I handed over my passport and boarding pass. The gate agent smiled at me with the kind of kindness only strangers can offer. "Final boarding, Miss Bennett," I nodded. One bag, a bracelet, and finally, no more silence. Some people say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes water flows freer when blood has tried to drown you. So I walked away. Not bitter, not broken, just done. Fans admire Nora's strength, inspired to share their own escapes from toxic family ties. What would you do if your family, like Amara, betrayed you and called it a joke? Share below.